Good afternoon. How are you, Susan?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for joining me today on the Q.A.C. Team Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I can't wait to share your story with our audience. So let's go ahead and get started and then tell our audience more about who you are and what you do.
Okay. Oh, you want me to start? I'm sorry. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely. Yeah.
I am Susan Tucker with Ants Army. We are a nonprofit that we started about 11 years ago now, and we lost our oldest daughter in a freak accident,
Oh,
and we wanted to do something to remember her by or memorialize her by. So we started.
yeah.
She wanted to be a child psychologist when she graduated, and we knew we wanted to do something with kids. So we helped these 16 to 21-year-old foster kids in Cecil and in Harford County that are completely on their own. They have no
Yeah.
family and everything. We help them. We help them with different things. We've helped one foster kid with seeing a therapist because it wasn't covered by insurance. This particular one, we covered a couple appointments for them. We helped one whose electric was going to be turned off. We help with groceries, but the biggest thing that we do is when they move out on their own into their first place, we give them packages that has pots and pans, dishes, cups, silverware, toiletries, personal hygiene items, all that stuff that adds up because they only get so much of an allotment. And it just kind of helps them, lets them know that they're not on their own. And then at Christmas, we send them a Christmas card with a gift card in it for something that they can use, and just want them to know that somebody's there and that somebody cares.
That is, first off, really sorry to hear about your daughter. It's kind of heartbreaking, and man,
Thank you.
it's got to be tough. I have, a father of two daughters myself. I can only imagine, but carrying on what you're doing and helping out, it's a nice thing, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah. Some of my questions, obviously, why'd you decide to be a business owner and why'd you choose your industry? Obviously, we know, why you chose what you did, but dig into a little bit more of the process and procedures that go behind what you do. This has to be challenging, right? Because one of my third question is, what are some of the challenges that you face, in a business? And this is a business like any other,
Right.
so let's talk about that a little bit. I know, some of these questions don't fit for, why did you decide to be a business owner and why you chose your industry, because they kind of chose you, right? I mean, you
Right.
know,
Right.
what you went through, you said, this is it. I know my mission, my vision, and my values of what I want. But let's talk a little bit about, to our audience about the challenges and the process that goes behind what you do.
Well, when we first started out, I was lucky enough to have a friend of mine who was acting director for social services. And I told her, I said, we need to do something. I have no idea what we want to do, but we need to do something. So we came up with the name Ants Army because our daughter's initials are ANT. So it was Ashley Nicole Tucker. So we did something with Ant, and that's when we came up with Ants Army. Um, but she said that the older kids just kind of, I don't want to say get lost in the system, but there's not enough social workers to go around, of course. And even when you have the social worker, you still just kind of feel like they still kind of feel like they're on their own. I mean, me personally, I was one of the few that my parents were together until they passed, till my father passed. And my mother's still living, but we always went to my parents. I always went to my parents if I needed help or needed something. And these kids just don't have that. And it's like, I just can't imagine. I can't imagine. And, when they turn 21, they're on their own. And,
Wow.
it's like, I don't know. It's heartbreaking. And I mean,
Yeah.
the hardest thing though, I think for us is we don't ever meet the kids normally. We do everything through the social worker. Um, I guess for privacy reasons and that type of thing. So it's hard because I used to ask for gifts at Christmas time for the kids, and I would put like a number on the item, and then I have so-called the cheat sheet to say, oh, this number goes with this kid, and that way no names are out there. But
Yeah.
even that went through the social worker, and one year she sent me a really nice plaque, and on the back it had pictures of some of the kids receiving gifts. And
Nice.
one of the places that's always supported us is Market Street Cafe here in Charlestown. And she said, Susan, can you post like the pictures of the kids getting the gifts and stuff? And it's like, I can't. I mean, they're
Yeah.
local kids and you don't
Yeah.
know who comes in, or, it's like you can't. And it's like I feel bad because, in fundraising and all of that, you're asking people to give their hard earned money, especially these days. But there's no way. I mean, they can see all the stuff we have that we have on shelves for the kids. And when my social worker texts me or calls me and says, okay, I have a kid that's moving into a group home, so that means he needs like snacks and toiletries and hygiene items, not so much pots and pans or cups and dishes yet. And we do, if they're moving into an apartment, then we do crock pot and crock pot cookbooks and just stuff like that, just to try to help. But
Right.
but it's hard because the only so-called proof I have that we do this for the
Yeah.
kids is all the stuff that we have in the shed. And I mean, we try to post like pictures of the social worker taking the stuff, but again, we can't show the kids.
Now, was that part of a is that a HIPAA law
Yes,
somewhat or?
because it kind of sort of, yes.
Yeah.
Like social services has their own thing,
Gotcha.
because even for me to be able to send, because I said, let me mail them birthday cards, just whether there's a gift card in it or not. Let me just send them a birthday card. And she said, well, I have to get them to sign a release that I can give you their address. And I'm like, really? And she said, yeah, they have to sign off that they give me any of that information. So
Yeah.
that's why we've been trying to figure out what we want to do or how we want to do what Ashley would do. And what we've come back to is what we're doing now, which is, I say boxes, but it's more like things in like a laundry basket. You give them a laundry basket and it has pots and pans and dishes and cups and silverware, and there's like Rubbermaid containers. There's a cookie sheet. I met one of the girls one time when we first started this, and I said, so what do you cook? And she said, frozen pizza. And I said, oh, like on a cookie sheet? She goes, oh, no, I don't have a cookie sheet. I don't bake cookies. I'm like, okay. So, like, she might have been an extreme. We've had another kid that was going to culinary school. So he asked for a set of knives, and we got him a very nice set of knives because that's what he needed for what he wanted to do. So we do try to help with that type of stuff, but it's things like when we do food drives, I always ask for like cleaning items and stuff because that stuff's expensive.
Yeah.
And I divided it up into piles. And when the social worker came over, she was like, you can't give bleach to that kid because they have PTSD from it. You have to give it to this one. And like disposable razors, she's like, we're not going to give this one razors. We're going to give those to this one. So luckily I have her that like knows all the kids, and she
Yeah.
says yes or no to what. But I mean, we
Yeah.
just try to give them a package that has all that stuff in it just to help them get started.
Yeah. So I wonder if you could like if they could have a number of the kids, like you said, number one, two, three, four, five, and then they could list out the items that they can have, so that's easier for you to separate things, so you're not going
Right.
through all that, right? Because I just talk about your challenges here. That has to be a huge challenge because now you get stuff together, but you don't know who gets what. She
Right.
has to tell you,
Right.
well, not for this, doesn't for that, right?
Well, and I've gotten to the point because before, my kids will tell you I live under a rock. So when my social worker would say, don't give them this, this, or this, and I'd go, really? Why?
Right.
And it
Well,
So right, exactly. So now
Right.
when she sends me a text or message that says, "Hey, I have a kid moving out in a week to an apartment," I say, "Is there anything I cannot give them?" And then
Nice.
she says, "No, you can give them whatever, or none of this, none of that, none of this." And it's like,
Yeah.
okay. Whereas before it was like, oh my gosh, what? And again, at first it was like,
Yeah.
why? Why can't you give them that?
Yeah.
And trust me, you don't want to know.
Yeah.
So
I can only
it's,
imagine. Yeah.
I know it's been very eye opening for me.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah. I can imagine. I was going to talk about that, right? Because I know there's so many kids with so many different needs and wants. And that has to be a challenge in itself, right? Knowing what you went through, knowing what these kids are going through, kind of get them what they need and them telling you what they need. That
Right.
right there is a whole thing, right? Because they're now going to be on their own, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And that was very hard in the beginning because I said to the friend of mine, I said, okay, well, if they don't have really family, how do they get gifts at Christmas? And she's like, Susan, they don't get gifts at Christmas. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. There's a kid that doesn't get a gift. So what I did was I'd start in like October and I'd tell my social worker, I said, okay, send me a list of the kids' names. And she would say like Susan T or you know, Charles L, or, you just have a first name and a last initial. Cause there's a lot of Ashleys, there's a lot of, repetition in some of the names.
Sure.
But
Yeah, sure.
then they would, she's actually the supervisor now. So she would go to her team and say, okay, find out what these kids want. Well, they never answer you. So then I'm asking people to donate this, and we used to wrap everything, and now they have volunteers that come into the office to do that. So it's so hard for the worker to get with the kid to find that out, to get back to me, and us have our helpers purchase the items and donate them or whatever.
Yeah.
That it was a struggle. So then it's like, okay, this is not working. So it's like, you know what, let's just do. And then that's when she said, let's do a gift card. And I thought, you know what, let's do the packages where they move out. That's when they need all that big stuff. Let's do that. And then at Christmas, we'll just put a card in saying, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays from family and friends of Ants Army. And then we put a gift card in there. And that's what we do now for Christmas. And because in the beginning, we would give them all this stuff at Christmas, but it's like, that's not fair because if they move out in February, they have to wait 10 months to get all this stuff to help them. So that's why we've been trying to improve as we go. So we're still basically trying to help them, but it's in a much better way, more, I can't think of what I want to say. It's,
Streamlined, maybe.
yes, thank you.
Yeah.
It's so much better and it helps them more. So it's like, that's what
Yeah.
we're trying to do. So that's what we do now.
That's really cool. So quick question. So when they move out and they get on their own, they still can't contact you after the fact, or is that
They,
like a no-no or
well, what
just a,
happened?
just
So
I was
in,
just thinking about it, just sort of a
no, I
question.
know, I know, and they
Yeah.
are welcome to. So I'll give you another little quick story. So in the beginning, the older foster kids would have a Christmas party for the little foster kids. So when they had that, the first year we started doing this, they invited us. My husband, my youngest daughter, and I went. And we met this one girl. Actually, there's two girls that we met there. I'm still in contact with the one now. She lives in Perryville. She has three kids. She's working full time. She's doing amazing.
Great.
So she's doing great. We're friends on Facebook, and we catch up. I'm ashamed to say probably once a year, and we kind of just catch up, have dinner, all that stuff. But the other one that I met there, um, the social worker and the acting director said, you know what, Susan, you should, text her or whatever. She really just needs somebody. She has no friends. She was not allowed contact with her family. And so I invited her over to make cookies with my youngest daughter and I. And I told her, I said, here, read through the recipe, see if you have any questions, then we'll get everything together and then we'll start mixing. And she had this funny look on her face. And I said, what's the matter? And she said, what's a TSP? And I went, oh. I said, teaspoon. And she goes, what's a TBLS? I said, tablespoon. I said, do you know what they are? And she goes, no. I'm
Yeah.
like, my kids sat on the counter when my parents cooked or baked, and they knew fractions way before school, but
You know
these
everything.
kids don't
Yeah.
have that.
Yeah.
So, long story short, with her, we ended up becoming quite attached. Um, I would text her like once a week and everything. She texted the social worker and said, why won't she leave me alone? What does she want from me?
Wow.
And the social worker said, that's what people do when they care about you and love you. They just want to check on you and see how you are. So that was 11 years ago. When she turned 24, she asked us if we would adopt her.
Wow.
And we did. So
Wow.
I now, instead of 3 kids, I now have 4. And instead of 0 grandkids, I have 5. So
That's an amazing story.
it's awesome. And she
Yeah.
calls us, it took her a little bit of time, but she does call us mom and dad. She
Yeah.
asked my husband to walk her down the aisle. That was before we adopted her. And it was
Yeah.
she's just been one of the family ever since. But
Yeah.
it was
The
tough at
tears were
first.
rolling at that
I
wedding.
know. I know. I'm proud I didn't cry, but she's
Yeah.
just
Wow.
such a good girl. She's married, has kids. She's working full time. He's working full
Yeah.
time. And I couldn't be more proud of her.
And
So,
that's great. Yeah. What a great story. What a,
yeah.
great thing you're doing here. You're taking in kids, you're helping kids. It's just awesome. So, the transition a little bit further. So, what are some expectations that you have for your business the next year or two? What are you hoping to accomplish?
Well, we're, okay, start that sentence again. We're trying to get more in the habit of looking for grants and applying for grants. So I met a lady who actually lost her son unexpectedly. And I just ran into her at something and I said, I'm sorry. I said, I don't mean to upset you, but I just need to hug you because I also lost a child. And we hugged and I said, we've started a nonprofit in her memory and all of this. And she goes, oh, well, she writes grants for a living. And she said she'll help us do stuff, but everybody's so busy. She was in the process of cleaning out her son's house and selling it and all of that. And a lot has happened. And we're still trying to find someone else that can do the grants more for us, so to speak, or has time to look them up, to see what information they need, to write them, and all of that stuff. So we're looking for that. We're hoping we have gotten grants in the past that somebody has like told me about. And then like we all break our necks trying to get everything done for it in time. But we're trying to have
Yeah.
somebody it's more of a pattern for them to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So,
that's what we're trying to do.
yeah. So, do you take donations?
We do. We do. We have a
Okay.
website.
I was going
It
to say,
is
so how do we contact you? How do we, if we want to donate, how do we want to get involved with you? Give us that information.
So my youngest daughter has been doing an amazing job with the website and everything. Right now on Facebook and online only is a 50-50 raffle. You can purchase tickets and then I don't know how long. I think it's run until the end of the month, but they're $1 a ticket or 6 for 5. And like I said, you do it all online. Then at the end of the time, we'll do a live thing where we draw the winner and then they get half of whatever the proceeds are. But we are on Facebook as Ants Army. There's an old one that we couldn't get updated and fixed. That's because I'm technology challenged. So my daughter started a new one. So just make sure it's the new one and it has a picture, like the logo is the little ants. Um, so you can go into Facebook and find out more. You can go to the website, which is ants, ANTS, army.org. and there's a donate button on there. There's information on there that, about different things coming up. The next thing we have coming up is Saturday, June 7th, is a cookout crab feast. We're having it at Minker Hall Pavilion in Perryville. It is $50 a ticket. It's pit ham, pit beef, all the fixings, all the sides, and all you can eat crabs while supplies last. But knock on wood, we've never ran out before. There's sodas and water. There's a bar there if you want to purchase alcohol. It's really nice. There's fans, there are lights out there, and it's a big open field in case somebody has kids. But all that information is on the website also. And anything we're doing, it'll be on the website and on Facebook. Megan's been really, really good at updating everything. And we're trying to get more people interacting, like on the Facebook and stuff also. Just trying to get the name out there.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, what I'll do, when we're finished this podcast, I get everything situated. I'll put the links in the show notes to the website.
Oh, okay.
And when I get the right Facebook page, when I post about it, I'll put that in there so people can see the correct
Awesome.
Facebook page. And I can put it in on YouTube as well. I can put both those links in the show notes. So we'll be able to take care of that and have the correct links for you. So anybody watching this podcast will get the right link for you. Okay.
Thank you. And we try to have that the first Saturday of June every year.
Nice.
So yeah, Ashley, for her so we lost her right after she turned 16.
Wow.
And
so sorry.
Thank you. We told her for her 16th birthday, she could have a slumber party. She could have, we'd take a group, go bowling. We'd take a group to the movies. We'd go out to eat. What did she want to do? And she said, I want to have a cookout with family and friends. And it's like, really? That's what you want to do for your 16th birthday? And she's like, yes. So every year we do a cookout, and now we've added the crab feast to it also. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Great job. Yeah, it's so great talking to you. I'm glad I met you. I'm glad I get to share your story with my audience. And, anybody watching who can help out, donate, or, buy a ticket, to the raffle, that will be awesome.
Right. It is.
It is. So cool.
It's nice to know that you help the kids. And I always just hope that this is something that she would have wanted to do and that she's proud of.
I'm sure she's watching you and saying, kudos to you. This is what I wanted,
I hope so.
And that's why I want to share your story, because, hearing your story and just the bits and pieces that I heard, it touched me, it touched my heart so much that I wanted to share the story,
Well, I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. Well, Susan, thanks again for coming on and sharing your story on the Q.A.C. Team podcast. It's been a great having you as a guest. Let's keep in touch.
Absolutely.
And we'll chat soon. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're so very welcome. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk soon.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Q.A.C. Team podcast with your host, Charles Luttrell. Connect with us on the web at QACteam.com, TikTok at Q.A.C. Team, Facebook and Instagram at QAC.team. Thanks for your support.